recap edition of the Big 12 College Experience on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Circa Sports. Circa Sports is back with their Circa Survivor and Circa Million contest. $14 million up for grabs. Get all the details at circasports.com. And welcome, everybody, back to the Big 12 Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Media Day is in the books, and we are approaching the season. I am your host, Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin, and I am joined by my co-host. He was born in Provo, Utah. He has family in Ames, Iowa, and he lives in Morgantown, West Virginia. He's a West Virginia grad. Give it up for Rambling Rush. Rush, what's going on, man?
A little hungover from a Shania Twain concert last night, but that's another story for another time. But doing great. Glad Media Day's wrapped up. Excited to talk about some storylines.
Yeah, shout out to Shania Twain. Man, I feel like a woman. This guy is not feeling like a woman, and he is the third man in the box. Always fighting a family civil war. You see the logos, the new backdrops. Shout out to our guy, Cameron Kerr. Mr. Big 12 Guru has family ties in Baylor, TCU, Texas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma schools, even Central Florida. He's got it all covered. And Cincinnati. He's got a seat everywhere. Give it up for the Big 12 Guru. Troy Chewning, what's up, brother?
We're Freeway West Virginia podcast today. I covered Baylor and Cincinnati in the first two episodes, so we can see how many different teams I can jump on the bandwagon for this year. What are you guys? What are you drinking on? I was gonna say I saw Rush's videos from the Shania Twain concert. I was a little jealous.
Oh, dude, it was one of my favorite summertime combinations. I don't have any in it right now. I just grabbed one, but this sparkling ice stuff, they sell it for like $1. You mix that with vodka, you don't even taste the vodka. It's
Rush, you're watching your calories.
No, it's just quick. It's quick drinking. You're like, oh, wow, I feel great. You know, everyone knows when you're leaving the tailgate, trying to go into a concert and all that stuff before you have to spend $20 on a beer, you're trying to feel as good as you can. It's a good way to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rush is checking off all the good boxes of being a good fiance and husband. Hell, he's even getting married on the day of West Virginia and BYU.
Oh,
and that you heard the intro. He was born in Provo, Utah, and he lives in Morgantown. So you know this hits home. Is this, Rush, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is this the football gods officially cursing you?
So I think you can look at it as two ways. Yes, probably is the answer to that question, but there's nothing I can do. That date's not changing anytime soon. I tried to do an appeal. The appeal didn't go through. But I guess if you want to look at it from kind of the old life and the new life coming together on the wedding day, kind of make it a beautiful thing. I'm going to do it like that. Like I said, and Ryan and Troy, you know this, keep it on the download. Don't spread this amongst the whole wedding. There'll be a little TV hidden in some corner somewhere. People need a break on the dance floor. We'll go check out the game.
Yeah, on my phone right in front of me.
But we'll have a big one somewhere too. So it'll all get figured out. I got a couple West Virginia people that tailgate. You know them, Ryan, that aren't too happy with me that they'll be tailgating a wedding and not tailgating that game either. But hey, it happens, right?
Yeah, this reminds me of I actually went to a dry wedding years ago, and it was a
Mormon wedding.
A bunch of it was a Mormon wedding.
It was a BYU wedding. You went to a BYU wedding.
so me and my buddy, we parked the truck over in a parking garage, and every 30 minutes it was just go sprint, shotgun a beer, go back. Everybody's like, "Where the hell are you guys going?" I was like, "Man, I ain't going to this wedding all sober." So yeah, no, counting down the days, and we're also counting down the days till we kick it off in week number 1. Media days are in the book. I should add that it was not media day; it's media days because they split it up 7 schools on what was it, Wednesday, and then 7 concluding yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Yormarck led it off. Expansion, Texas, Oklahoma kind of covered a little bit of everything. Mexico, New York. I mean, he pretty much covered everything. Rush, what were your biggest takeaways from Mr. Yormarck's remarks?
Hey, they're already starting to throw some shade at Oklahoma and Texas. As you're saying, you haven't been to the Big 12 championship in 2 years for either school. They talked about the recruiting, and as we'll talk expansion, because it seems like at this point we'll get to it. Colorado's almost a certainty at this point. You're going to be able to make up. I know Oklahoma and Texas are big programs, but I think you're going to find ways to make it up and actually make this league more fun. And I think in a way, part of this league has always been like, oh, we got to keep Oklahoma and we got to keep Texas happy. And, that's rumored why Colorado might have left in the first place. Same with Nebraska because of Texas. And now you don't have to worry about stepping on eggshells with those 2 schools anymore. It's in a good place. And I have a feeling one of the schools might make the Big 12 championship, but the Big 12 is not going to let both of them make it. There's no way. Like you're going to see at the end of the game, so a little yellow flag's going to come out and be like, oh, 15-yard penalty. We didn't do anything. Yeah. You're going to the SEC. That's what you did. That's
what
your
we were
penalty.
talking. What we were talking about on the last episode, that could be like a culmination of the whole year of referees giving like garbage time touchdowns to teams against Texas, and then it comes down to a point differential 5th tiebreaker, and they're like, "Oh, look, Texas didn't make it in. Sorry."
How did that happen?
And we'll touch on it on the other side of the break. But it wasn't just Yormarck making remarks; it was others in the media taking their jabs. Everybody, including the coaches, were taking their jabs at Texas and Oklahoma. But I got to get us paid because we're brought to you by Circa Sports. Circa Millions and Circa Survivor are back. $14 million in guaranteed prizes are up for grabs. Circa Millions, 5 NFL picks ATS each week. Circa Survivor has plenty of money line underdogs, and there's plenty there in week number 1. Enter in Vegas, play from anywhere. Sports Gambling Podcast will be there the last weekend in August. That's circasports.com. For all the details, circasports.com. Hey, and hell, if we had $14 million, we'd be running the media day ourselves, and that will happen in the future here. Let's dive into some more of the comments of the Big 12 media days. And there's actually a guy that I got to know a little bit. He made some headlines here. He went on with our buddy John Kurtz over there, and over in Kansas City, and this is a deputy AD assistant to Mr. Yormarck, Tim Weiser, on Texas and Oklahoma, and his quote was, "I think their decision was more about affiliating with the groups of different schools that they would rather get beat by Alabama than Kansas State or Florida than Iowa State." Wow, he didn't shy away. I mean, he put it right out there. He said they didn't leave for money. Rush, is he foreshadowing? Because Texas has got to play K-State and they got to go to Ames this year. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, like I've already said, you're going to see some dirty laundry out on the field this year when Oklahoma and Texas play. But it's Oklahoma and Texas did this whole thing the past couple of years in a way, kind of holding the Big 12 hostage, saying like, you need us. And it just, no, we don't. We're happy with our identity. We're happy with the teams we brought in. Good luck in the SEC. I remember when we all, got together at your place, Ryan, and filmed like our Big 12 trailer. I don't know if that's been released yet. And we just I was wearing the Oklahoma polo and just falling off the deck because they're just going to get smacked in the SEC. Like, okay, yeah, you lose 2-3 games, maybe 4 in the Big 12, depending on the year you have. But now you're going to be going bowling at 6-6 or 7-5. It just. I thought it was always good when they had, the shot for the playoffs, especially now with the playoffs going to 12 teams. They definitely, Oklahoma and Texas, at least Oklahoma, I'll say, probably would have made it in every year now. Now, even with 12 teams coming up next year, that's still going to be hard. So they kind of did it to themselves.
Just speaking on the same wavelength, how lucky is Oklahoma to have that game against Georgia next? Like, there's no way that Brent Venables in the beginning of the year is going to not get his ass whooped by Georgia.
Yeah, and shout out to the chat. The chat is alive and well. Richard Road Test. Road Test says, did they say SEC is king? Because I hope they pay tribute. No, SEC is not. SEC is king of playing the FCS schools in November. And king of having over half their league just claim that they're Alabama and Georgia. That's what the SEC is really good at. So, yeah, no, I'm with you guys. I think Texas and Oklahoma are in for a rude awakening. I mean, Texas A&M has not gotten any better as a football program. Missouri has not gotten any better as a football program. Careful what you wish for. Nebraska, when they left this league, did not get better as a shit. Nebraska definitely has not gotten any better. So it's going to be interesting. And, you know, I get a kick out of all these Texas fans. They're like, we beat K-State 6 straight times, blah, blah, blah. We beat Iowa State last year. Okay. Sorry. You rather lose to Alabama and Florida than TCU and Baylor or Texas Tech, whoever the hell you've gotten beat by in the last 15 years, because you haven't won the Big 12 since 2009. Rush, is this the year that I'm not even going to ask you that because I already know the answer. But what do you think of the target on Texas and Oklahoma's back? I mean, we're hearing it from the commissioner and the assistant commissioner. I mean, we're hearing it from coaches. Gundy's chiming in. I mean, everybody's chiming in. So
I kind of see it from this, obviously not the same level of success, but from the NFL standpoint, right? My, dad's side of the family is all from Maine. So I'm a big Patriots fan. And, obviously that 20 years is every game you got the opponent's best game because everyone wanted to beat the Patriots. And now with the Big 12, with Oklahoma and Texas leaving, you're going to have that same type of thing. It's like, you're going to get every team's best game. And we've seen it with Texas being favored these past years. But they haven't showed up. Oklahoma's kind of been the one carrying the torch. I mean, the reverse of that is maybe this creates a sense of urgency. Maybe this creates that mentality of us versus the world. But that can also come back to bite you. So it's going to be interesting. But the target's just growing and growing by the day. And when you have the deputy commissioner and the commissioner basically saying the quiet part out loud, then things aren't going to go right for Texas, and that target's only going to get bigger. And like I said, once you get Big 12 officiating involved somehow,
and they didn't get the favor on the schedule either. At least Oklahoma, Troy, you could touch on this, got the favorable schedule between the two.
Well, Oklahoma gets cupcake. I mean, they're preparing themselves for the SEC with their non-con schedule, but that's, we talked about Georgia getting pulled off of their list, but I mean, I know we're a Big 12 show and you can't really tiptoe around eggshells. When we're talking about football, there is a king, and it is the SEC. Now, when I say that, I mean, the top end talent is the best there. But like we've touched on, if they had to play like SEC number 1 and number 2 against Big 12 1 and 2, sure, they're winning those games. But the bottom 5 or 6 teams in their league are getting spanked. Yeah. Like you can't put West Virginia up against Missouri. They'll roll them over.
Well, we have in past.
Or Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt's not. They're not. Vanderbilt's not even playing. They're just forfeiting that one. Like
they're going back into COVID protocol.
And I'll say this too about, and I know we've talked about this, is the SEC too, right? It's the league the rich gets richer. That separation from top to bottom just keeps spreading out more and more. While as Big 12 is the league of parity, and that's why it's going to be so much fun covering the Big 12 this year. It's a lot of people just kind of in the middle, bigger middle class with the Big 12. And another point I kind of want to bring up with the Oklahoma versus Texas. Obviously, the Big 12 is not happy with either school leaving the conference. However, I think there's more hatred towards Texas, one for obvious reasons and cultural reasons, but at least Oklahoma before TCU was representing the Big 12 in the playoff. Like they did a lot of good things for the Big 12. So I don't think there's as much hatred towards Oklahoma. It's definitely, I think it leans, it's like 60-40 hatred towards Texas.
I also think Oklahoma will be early on to try to schedule some non-con games against teams like Oklahoma State or even like a Baylor or something like that. And I don't think teams are going to be that upset when Oklahoma comes back to ask for a non-con game, but I think there will be teams that turn down Texas non-con games just as a good old fuck you.
Well, I can guarantee you one guy that's not playing Oklahoma. His name's Mike Gundy, and he wants it. Like I said, you got the commissioner, the assistant deputy commissioner throwing their shade, and then you got Mike Gundy, who was the only guy who didn't wear a suit and tie. He said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna wear my orange bright polo. I'm Mike Gundy. I'm a man. I'm 40 or 57, whatever he is now. I don't even know." His quote from the other day. No, Oklahoma, when asked if they will resume Bedlam, no, Oklahoma State's not going to change what we do because Oklahoma wanted to go to the SEC. They need to change what they do. Troy, obviously you have family at Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Will we ever see Bedlam again after this year?
I mean, yeah, I just don't know how long it's going to be. It's probably going to be at least 8 years or a decade or something like that before they can work out any kind of non-con Bedlam home and home, or even like a neutral site game or something like that. But that's the worst part about it, is that now it's going to be leaning towards that neutral site Bedlam game, and that sucks. Like you can't play West Virginia and Pitt at FedEx Field. That's stupid.
Yeah.
So it looks like Oklahoma State doesn't have their next non-con opening till 2029. Actually, they're at Alabama that year, so who knows if they'll want to play Oklahoma. But I think, and this is, we'll probably have a lot of conversations about this later, is eventually you're going to need something that's not the NCAA ruling college football. You're going to have the college football playoff be the governing body. And I know we've talked about this before on the Ryan and Rush show. Ryan, is eventually you'll have these football teams be companies of schools. They won't be just, make it cleaner with NIL and Title IX and everything that goes into there. But the fact that it's going to be till 2029 at the earliest you can have Bedlam again, I think a governing body in, college football would make it so you can't schedule out, 2-3 years in advance. Because this is like, when you see look, I'm looking at Oklahoma State's future schedule, and they're in 2037, they're at Colorado. I mean, that's ridiculous. And that's why that's a reason why you can't have a Bedlam for a long time.
They should
Backyard Brawl is another example.
They should almost lean towards, at that point, you would think, there's 4 major conferences, just like North, South, East, West, with Big Ten, SEC, ACC, and Big 12 or something like that. You should almost lean towards doing it the way they do the interconference challenges in basketball, and just have it be like, we're going to do, Big 12 number 3 plays SEC number 4. And then at the end of the previous year, you figure out, okay, that's Ole Miss against Baylor.
Ooh, I like that. Kind of like how they do football scheduling, where you finish in your conference, and then you play that. I like that.
I don't see these two playing any time, as long as Gundy's there, at least, because I also think Oklahoma State's gonna be like, you owe us a trip. You guys left, and Oklahoma is going to be on their high horse, like Texas, to be like, who are you to say that we got to come to you? And it's just going to be a dick measuring contest. And that's why I don't think that they're going to play anytime soon. It's kind of like Kansas and Missouri in basketball just recently played. And we still haven't seen Texas and Texas A&M in football, because it's been a kind of who's on their pedestal more. Hey, no, they owe us a trip. They left the league. They should come to us first. And I guess they're joining leagues. Or they're going to be in the same SEC league here come next year, but they don't even play each other next year. It's the following year, and I think I read a stat. I was listening to Colby the other day. Texas or Texas A&M, I can't remember which one. The other one will have not played at the other person since 2012. They will have gone to Alabama and Georgia before returning the trip between Texas and Texas A&M. So I think we could see a similar thing with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Go ahead, Rush.
The only problem with what Gundy's saying, which I do agree, there's some resentment right now, and I get where he's coming from, but eventually the money will be too great where you can't say no. Like, you just have to get the money right on this. That's all it is.
That's the only, like, you're not going to win a pissing contest against Mike Gundy. That dude wears an OAN shirt in public to interviews. Like, you're not going to win. But eventually someone's going to hang enough money in front of him that he might take off the OAN shirt.
Hey, all I could say is in terms of Texas and Oklahoma, for Texas, they're lucky as hell that Gundy's not on the schedule because he owns Texas. And then Oklahoma, they're lucky as shit that K-State's not on the schedule because they've been whipping their ass the last couple of years. So they both did get a break there, but we'll still see because the officiating will not be on their side. And everybody's got to get over to Underdog Fantasy. We're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, best ball mania here. And Underdog Fantasy is giving away $15 million in prizes. Underdog Pick'em is also a great way to get down on your favorite MLB and NFL season player props. So many ways to choose from Underdog Fantasy, and it's available in so many different states. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. All right, let's move along, and we are back on the Big 12 College Experience. Go ahead and hit that smash subscribe and leave a comment and review. Only 5 stars, by the way. Speaking of a program that thinks that they got 5 stars all of a sudden, Texas Tech, holy shit. I'm starting to get a little scared that there's a little too much hype there in West by God, Texas, in Lubbock. It was a Dallas outlet that wrote the article, the DallasNews.com. Is Texas Tech the new Alabama? No, that's not a misprint. I did not make that up. I am not the one saying that.
There's
I'll turn this over to you guys.
Oh, I was just gonna say there's quite a few similarities between the town of Tuscaloosa and Lubbock. So, first box check.
Is that you got any other boxes to check?
Lots of sisters and relationships they shouldn't be in.
I mean, you got Joey McGuire, shout out, 8-5 last year, won their last 4 games. He had a great coat on. I love the red coat. Our guys over at the Gambling Gauchos, those are our guys over there. We love Texas Tech, but this is becoming too much for me, man. Come on. I love Texas Tech as much as anybody. Guns up, especially when they're playing Texas. But, I mean, McGuire's officiating weddings now. He's going to officiate his 3rd wedding next summer. I mean, man of the people, Rush, talk the Lubbock community a little bit down here. You're the man of reasoning. This is a little much.
I try to be reasonable, Rush, when I can. So you brought up the Gauchos real quick, and I want to give them a shout out too, because they were actually at Media Day and asked McGuire a question. So that's awesome to see that come full circle. Give them a follow. We'll get them on the show here eventually. As Ryan and Rush show was on there, they're good people. So it seems like every season, right? No matter what sport it is, there's this team that, a couple people will be like, for example, I'll just take the NFL. Let's say I'm really high on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that starts getting talked up. Yeah. And the next thing you know, what you originally thought was like this kind of hidden gem take, it becomes mainstream.
Yeah.
And then when it becomes mainstream, then expectations are formed from that. So what was once hey, this actually, I got a little optimism, now becomes like, I expect this. And I am scared that's what's becoming with Texas Tech. Because like you said, is you love Lubbock, Ryan. We love the culture down there. We like, Texas Tech, of course, when they're not playing West Virginia. Definitely a good school, good guys in the Big 12. But yeah, if you're getting already talked to Alabama, and that's beyond mainstream, that's just now you're in the realm of delusion. It's take it back a notch. Absolutely. It's time to settle down a little bit. Maybe holster one of the guns, Texas Tech. Just, you keep one out, have confidence. You should be a good team this year, but let's just holster one for a moment. That's all.
You got to beat Wyoming at Wyoming first.
Yes, you do. And then you have Oregon.
You got to use one hand to hold on to the saddle or the little reins on the horse. You can't go no hands. That might have been a more accurate article for them to say, is Texas Tech the new Auburn?
That's a good comparison.
Because they will still have those years where they're significantly better than you expect. And then Texas Tech, they're going to be a good football team, but they're just as likely to only win 7 games this year as they are to, win 9 or 10 of them.
Yeah, I agree. Well, they're over under set at 7.5 for a reason, and I got their schedule pulled up. We talk about potentially missing the top 5 teams on your schedule. The only one they miss is Oklahoma. They got to go to Austin. They got to go to Waco. They got K-State and TCU coming to them. I mean,
Morgantown's not easy either. I'm not saying we're going to be a great team.
Yeah.
Texas Tech should be better than us, but Morgantown's not an easy place to play in.
We need them to get Mahomes back because that was the only guy we could beat in Lubbock for some reason.
Got to go to Provo.
When do they go to Provo and Morgantown? What are those days?
Morgantown opens up the Big 12 schedule. That's September 23rd, and then they're in Provo October 21st.
Oh, they
nice crisp in the air.
They don't have to go up there in November or anything like that.
Yeah, still can trust me. It can get cold as shit at the end of October in Utah. And then they got TCU after that, so that could be a look ahead right there.
Are we when we start picking games week in and week out? Are we just going to pick the home team? Is this going to be the league where just the home team wins every game? It's like I don't know who to win.
That's what it's like in basketball.
Yeah.
They're all so close that it just comes down to like that extra energy from the fans is worth 3 points.
I think this is we saw it a lot in the NFL last year. You see it here, but anytime you can get a home dog, take it.
Oh yeah.
I don't care who home dogs that they rule. So I don't know how many underdogs you're going to get at home in terms of the spread this year, but there is something. I mean, like it's still that I know they're getting paid through NIL, so it's not technically amateur anymore. But when you still have that amateur kind of age, mistakes happen, crazy things happen. So
especially when articles like this come out. About it, are they the next Alabama? I mean, we've mocked the Texas hype because the Texas hype is as high as it's been since Tom Herman. Even before that, it's Charlie Strong hype right now. It's high. I mean, to be honest, Oklahoma actually probably doesn't have as much hype as they've had in the past because of coming on 6 and 7. Go ahead, Troy.
The last time the Texas had this much hype was Tom Herman, and before that, Charlie Strong. We saw how that fucking ended up.
Yeah,
dude. BYU ended Mac Brown's career.
The last time they won the Big 12. Yeah. Speaking of teams that ended Mac Brown's tenure in the Big 12, like you said, Rush, BYU, 4 newcomers, a lot of energy. I'll kick it right back to you, Rush. What did you take away from the 4 newcomers other than just a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and good luck playing those teams at their respective home fields? You were talking about home dogs. It's going to be tough places to play, man.
I agree. 2 things, and this is more from media days, right? We do our best to kind of sort through the words, and talk's talk, but there's a reason they play the games, of course. But there was this kind of quiet confidence, it seemed like, from the newcomers. I remember I was watching, because I think it was on right before West Virginia. I was watching Cincinnati and Satterfield pretty hard and seem excited, ready to go. Yeah. And they're not taking this lightly at all. You can tell they are very thankful to be in the Big 12 now and have this type of hype surrounding their programs, which I think all 4 of those programs feel like, in a way, this probably should have happened 5 to 10 years ago. But of course, it's a process. But they finally earned it. They're finally on that stage, and they belong, man. They're ready to go.
I really like Gus Malzahn, mostly because you can tell that he's not a horrible person, but he's not a good person either, which is exactly what you want from your football coach. And like, you can tell his role model is someone like Lex Luthor, which I can really, really appreciate from a football coach that's going to try to get, like a little bit more out of his guys. But I think when we were talking about home dogs, I think you're going to see the Bounce House as a good home dog moneymaker for us this year. I think they're going to have a tough time on the road, but Bounce House is going to be banging.
No doubt about it. We talked about Texas Tech being the next Auburn. Hell, maybe it's Central Florida. Maybe Central Florida pops up every couple years, pushes for a Big 12 championship. Shit, Malzahn was the one that he was 3-1 against Alabama at Auburn at home, and then they fired him, which was ridiculous. It was 67-35.
And Auburn is who UCF beat in their bowl game to win their national championship.
It was the national championship, Troy. It's not a bowl game.
Hey, you know what? They would have made the playoffs, and who knows what they would have done. So, no, I'm with you. I think Central Florida is the most likely out of the 4 newcomers, and I think it's going to be an adjustment. And we'll see at what's that, September 30th, when Baylor's got to go down there. They got to adjust. They got to adjust to that Florida heat in September. But you know what? Central Florida's also got to go to fucking Boise in week 2, and they've lost like 6 games in the last 50 years there at Boise. Rush, what'd you think of your guys from BYU? I think they got a little bit of confidence too coming into the league with just playing the big boy schedule the last couple of years.
It's ever since they've been independent, they've had the mentality we'll play anyone, anywhere. And I'm sure now that they're in a conference, it creates a little more order to the program. You're aware more of your expectations. And, of course, with an independent schedule, they play some teams, over and over again, so Utah or Utah State. But now you can kind of build, reputations with other programs and how you play them or how you prepare or kind of just getting more into a routine. I'm telling you, BYU is the other one you have to look at and they're kind of opposite, right? You have Central Florida down in Orlando where it's hot, the bounce house, just muggy Florida. And then, across all the way in Provo, Utah you have, the mountains, the elevations, 5,000 something feet, air's thin, it gets cold. Like you kind of have this like yin and yang between Central Florida and BYU. So they're that home field advantage. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing teams go to Provo and play there and kind of just be shocked by like, oh, I have my hands on my knees and it's only the start of the third quarter and we just came out of halftime.
If we see a team like if there's a team that plays away at both UCF and BYU and you see them win one of those games but not the other, you'll be able to tell how interested their team is in single women, because the biggest difference between Provo and Orlando is hose versus no hose.
Hey, let me ask you this. I'm looking. I got all the schedules pulled up. By the way, I've played the schedule game. Like, I was bored out of my mind today at work, and I'm just like
they're all jumbled together in my mind now. Yeah. It's just all.
There was one scenario where everybody went 5-4 and 4-5. I'm like, holy shit! I got to give Texas and Oklahoma some more loss, get them in last. Just kidding. Let's play the schedule game. I'll name off their opener. Their inaugural Big 12 home game. UCF plays Baylor at home to start. Cincinnati plays Oklahoma at home to start. BYU plays. Where is BYU at, Rush?
They play Kansas. Their home opener. Oh shoot.
I got Houston right here. Houston plays TCU, and that's week 3. That's the first. That's going to be the first Big 12 game because everybody starts in week number 4. BYU plays
Cincinnati. They actually play Cincinnati and BYU. Week 5. So
how many of the 4 schools win their home openers? Do you want me to rename them?
It's going to be 2 and 2. BYU will beat Cincinnati and Provo. Cincinnati will lose to Oklahoma. Let's see. It's Baylor and UCF. Who did you say Houston plays again?
TCU,
and that's a standalone game, and they've been.
Yeah,
I kind of like Houston in that game.
I think Baylor gets their national media coverage starting after they win that game in Orlando.
Okay, I agree. I think it's 2 and 2 then.
But I think it's a really, really close game, and I think at that point everybody else starts to realize, man, maybe UCF was ready for this move.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Central Florida and BYU win. I like Houston to pull that upset, and call me crazy. I think Cincinnati's going to keep it close against Oklahoma. I think that could quietly as well become a hornet's nest to play at. And they've been waiting forever for this opportunity. And then you get Oklahoma of all teams coming to you for your Big 12 opener. I think that one's a toss-up. So we'll see. We talked about the newcomers, teams that we'll call it the group, the Elite Eight. That's what I'm calling them this year. I'm going to nickname it the Elite Eight. Baylor, Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas Tech, and West Virginia, the best 8 schools that are sticking with the Big 12. Who kind of flew under the radar, but you sense a level of confidence and you like what you're seeing with the schedule and just the way they're handling themselves coming into the season rush?
I've said it before, but if you want to talk, I feel like originally a couple months ago that was Texas Tech till I kind of explained the process, and now it's expectations. Yeah. No one is talking about Baylor. It seems like no, like I am Troy. I'm on your side with this. Give Sheila my best, and sick them. But I think it's Baylor. I have a good feeling about them this year. I think they're right where they need to be.
When I love listening to Dave Aranda and all of his interviews and whatnot for the opposite reason that I like Gus Malzahn. Dave Aranda seems like he's not a football coach at all. He's like your doctorate level professor. It's really funny. He's a lot like their basketball coach, Scott Drew. It has nothing to do with how good you are on the field. It has everything to do with what you're willing to do for another teammate or another coach or something like that. And I mean, I would almost think that last year was the outlier compared to the last 3 or 4 years for Baylor football. I think the norm is more about that 8 or 9 win range. And this year, that's probably enough to get it done, or at least give yourself a shot in the title game. And just because Rush said Baylor, I'm going to go ahead and return the favor. I'm all on Neil Brown, baby.
Neil Brown, trust the climb, baby.
Neil Brown,
trust the climb.
When you're talking about Oklahoma giving Cincinnati a hard time, that's going to be a rough game because Cincinnati's defensive line is going to wreck Oklahoma's offensive line. And the one team in the Big 12 that you're probably not just going to be able to run rampant through their O-line is West Virginia. Mm-hmm. And the way that he sat there in one of the interviews, it was like, I can guarantee you we're not going to finish last. He sounded like Ryan up here. He is like, we have 132 returning starts on our offensive line. We're not finishing last in this league.
Eat shit, Pitt. No, we're not finishing fucking last. I'm tired of hearing about it too. So, and we're going to win week 3, and then we're going to get some momentum going in the Big 12. I was going to say Oklahoma State, but Gundy put the bullseye right on his chest like he always does.
Gundy doesn't fly under the radar.
Yeah, he couldn't hold it in.
I'll just pick them to win the league. But
like in the Top Gun movie, the newer one where they have to fly low enough under the radar, Gundy just went straight in, right? At 20,000 feet, and shoot these missiles at me, bitch. I don't care.
He's just laughing. He's like, I don't give a shit. Yeah, Oklahoma, Texas leave. I'm still going to win the league. Everybody's going to wear a suit and tie. I'm going to wear an orange polo. I got the beard.
Should have worn a tuxedo t-shirt.
Looks like I just got done playing 36 holes before I got out here. TCU, everybody keeps writing them off, but then they keep reminding everybody about how they went to the national championship. They lost the Big 12 championship. I think people forget. K-State, to me, is still flying under the radar. I know they're ranked second, but like everybody's talking about Texas and Oklahoma. Oh, K-State brings back their whole O-line, Will Howard, Chris Klieman. I mean, we saw what he did at North Dakota State in his 5 years. He's quietly, you take out the COVID year, he's won 8 or more games every single year. I think the K-State Wildcats are once again flying under the radar, especially with Will Howard another year in the system.
He just needs to stay healthy. That's the question there. If he stays healthy, you're absolutely right, Ryan. Because they might have been ranked number 2, but you're right. No one's talking about them either. It's just like,
it's not sexy.
On the list. No, it's not sexy at all.
Yeah,
and I think that's what you have to go with your preseason picks. It's just Howard needs to stay healthy.
Going in the other direction, somebody that I lost a little bit of confidence in, even though he was up there really supporting the Big 12, even though his team's quitting. Brent Venables was up there, supporting the Big 12 and giving them props and all that. And the first thing that went through my mind was, this guy knows he's going to be looking for a motherfucking job in a year.
I'm glad you said Venables. He was next on my list. So that was your takeaway from Venables, because when he went up there, I noticed everybody kind of stopped, and it's like, what's Venables going to say? Because you don't go 6 and 7 in Norman.
No,
with the SEC on the horizon.
I don't mean this in a personal way. I mean this as like, I think just kind of football culture. Like, some football guys are just really weird people just because of the way they're and he is one. Like, put him on the top of the list. he doesn't seem like a number one. He needs to, that's why he's complimenting the Big 12. He's going to be asking one of these 12 coaches, maybe 13 with Colorado, for a defensive coordinator job. I mean, he's a number two. He's one of those guys that you keep on your cabinet because he's brilliant. He knows how to put together a scheme, but I don't know if he knows how to lead men. And he's just weird. Dude.
He definitely seems like he needs the perfect roster of weird guys around him in order to buy in. Like, you're not just going to get top end talent that then decide like, oh man, this crazy wacko dude might be right. Even if he is correct, it's still just kind of like a line that not a lot of people are across that are, really good football coaches and stuff.
It's like we talk about, right? I mean, when you're trying to get a message across, it's more than just the message itself. It's how it's being delivered. So you're right, Troy. He could have the perfect schemes, the perfect message, but if it's not coming across the right way, people aren't going to get it. And that to me seems like exactly what you're saying, Troy. Like, his roadblock is he can't deliver a message right.
The worst part about that is it almost seems like exactly what happened last year. Like, there were a few games where he was out coached, but it seemed like
West Virginia,
the guys on the field just didn't want to do it for him.
Yeah. It was a lot of individual players. And I guess one kind of positive, maybe you can look at this as a positive thing, but with the transfer portal now is it can give guys more momentum to play well throughout the season, knowing that they could be in a different situation the next year. It does give if you're on the same team next year and the season's done, then players are going to quit. But if they know I could go down and play for another school, I'm going to keep grinding this out. But even with then, I mean, I was at that West Virginia Oklahoma game, and it's like, dude, it was weird. His coaching was awful that game. He was just kind of laying down and stuff would work, and then he wouldn't go back to it.
It's like he's got an on-off switch and changes it throughout the game, because I saw the same. I mean, I went to the Cheez-It Bowl against Florida State, and they started off super strong. They were crushing it, and then it was like, nah, we don't really want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Two guys to me that, because I want to touch on every team at least at some point during this episode, the two remaining ones that we haven't talked about, and I think they're two really good football coaches, Matt Campbell and Ames, and Lance Leipold and Lawrence. I thought those guys are so easy to like and root for, and just do a tremendous job with their respective programs. Iowa State had the tough year, losing all those close games. Leipold, we've already touched on it. Step. Can they take that next step with can the defense be improved this year? They have the preseason player of the year in Jalen Daniels. What were your takeaways? I'll kick it off with you, Troy, with the Cyclones and Jayhawks.
I think Matt Campbell suffers from that. He's almost too consistently good that it just becomes like something that's in the back of your head. It's an expectation for Matt Campbell to take whatever ragtag group he has and still, compete with every single team, even the best of the best in the league. And he doesn't really get his flowers anymore. It's like you can only deliver flowers to someone 3 times and then that's it. Like he's out. But yeah, he might be the best coach in the league, to be completely honest. I think I would side with Matt Campbell as the best guy in the whole league. And if I was a recruit that was just looking to, enjoy my college play, not worried about the next level or something like that, I would want to go play for that family there in Ames.
Rush, is he slowly becoming his rival in Iowa City, Kirk Ferentz in the Iowa Hawkeyes? I feel like those programs are slowly becoming mirror images of one another.
No, they are. They kind of do the same tactics. One just plays in the Big 10, one plays in the Big 12, but it's basically the same. I'll say this about Iowa State. I brought this up on the preview I did with Colby. Is I know we talked about Oklahoma's schedule earlier, right? And how they don't have Kansas State, who beats them every year on their schedule. But they do play Iowa State. The game is in Norman, but it's that end of September game where it seem like they always lose that one. I have Iowa State in that game. I would put money on it. Actually, I might after this episode put some money down. I think Iowa State's going to beat Oklahoma at the end of September in Norman. I think Matt Campbell is a fantastic coach. I mean, there's no one's really debating that. But I also think he's the perfect, like, if I'm Matt Campbell, I'm not trying to go anywhere. Iowa State needs me a little more than I need them. But there's something about in an industry, Ryan, you know, obviously the sports industry and the coaching industry, and an industry that's so chaotic and so much movement, and one moment you're gone, like they're perfect for each other. I mean, I think we're going to be doing this show 10 years from now, and we'll still talk about Matt Campbell being at Iowa State. Now, you know, when the stuff happened at Northwestern, and his name will always be brought up for those different Midwest jobs. And I don't know, maybe the money will just be so good at some point where it's like, guys, I can't say no to this. But it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, Matt Campbell seems like that kind of weird that's the opposite of Brent Venables. Like, everybody wants to play for that guy. For whatever he does, he gets the message across loud and clear, and everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do week in and week out. And
they're going to be an interesting experiment this year too. They don't like the transfer portal. There really wasn't any movement in the Iowa State transfer portal at all. They're returning a lot of starters. Their offensive line, exactly. It's Iowa.
They just throw the ball.
Is this heaven? Yeah. No, it's Iowa.
It's Field Dreams and Ames in Iowa City. It's crazy that they've become such mirror images of one another. Let's introduce a new segment on the show. We're gonna do this every single show that we got something. We'll call it Troy's Take of the Day. I got a little music going headed into this. Who do we got here, Troy? Who's representing the Big 12 college experience and subscribing?
This is the Washington Nationals manager, Davey Martinez, at a post-game press conference telling everyone to go like and subscribe to the Big 12 college experience from the Same Game Parlay Network on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Music or wherever you get your podcast or watch live and everything. I mean, that's a world champion that's very clearly supporting the podcast. So
you heard it there first. Look at Davey. Look at Davey throwing up the Big 12 brand college experience. Shout out to Davey Martinez, 2019 World Series champion, beat the Houston Cheaters. Can't ever take it away. I think
there, baby.
I think we should conclude the episode on that note. Hey, by the way, everybody, appreciate the support in week number 1. We got a big week coming up next week. It's power rankings week. We're gonna power rank the tailgates, the fan bases, mascots, and then we're gonna do quarterbacks and coaches. Can't wait to do our coaches and quarterbacks rankings. And before you know it,
I have a mascot power rankings too. So
yeah, no, that's part of the agenda next week. And then we will transition into our 14-team previews. It'll be a little bit different than Colby's over at the main station of the college football experience. We want to provide something different since we know Colby, Patty C, and NC Nick and all the guys do all 133 teams. So we'll provide a different angle, different point of views for everybody. But before we get on out of here for another good weekend, Rambling Rush, tell everybody where to find you.
At Rambling Rush, Twitter, Instagram. Appreciate all the support. I've already the show started, Ryan, and I'm already debating people on BYU football and this, that, and the other thing. But hey, it's great. That's why it's there. Come find me there. Obviously, Ryan and I do the Ryan and Rush show as well. Please subscribe on YouTube if you get a second. That's the West Virginia focus channel that we do. So appreciate you all. It's been a great week one. Week 1 down, a lifetime to go. Love it.
You guys can always follow me on Twitter at Troy Chewning, just my full name, no spaces. Lots of memes, lots of Davey Martinez edits, making fun of Texas. I saw there was a pretty big publication that was talking about the West Virginia Twitter support being like one of the under the radar best Twitter fan bases. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm kind of tuned in because of the Ryan and Rush guys. And it seems like, probably the least delusional fan base in the Big 12, the most realistic. And that's got to come from 12, 15 shots of moonshine or something like that. And you just sit there and you realize like, man, maybe we're not that good.
So do you know what's funny about West Virginia? It's the opposite. It's right. Like people need moonshine and then they become more delusional. We wake up delusional, and we need the moonshine to get normal.
Yeah, you wake up with the shakes. And
it's been a lot of heartbreak over the years, and it's definitely been a summer to forget for us Mountaineer fans. Obviously on the basketball side of things and the football. I mean, we're preseason fucking picked last in the Big 12, but brighter days are ahead. Eat shit pit. It's going to be a great weekend. Appreciate all the support in our first week. You can find me at Moneyline_Mac, and Pick Dundee and I will be going live here in less than an hour on the college basketball experience. Shit, we're about 17 weeks away from college basketball. That'll be here before we know it. And have a great weekend, everybody, and don't forget to let it ride.
Hugs for Governor 2024.
Don't say the word Rush.